The movie begins with Edwin, who happens to be Jedrzej Czernecki's father. Edwin is in an Olympic boxing match contesting for the gold medal. He was almost shaken down by his opponent, but he eventually knocked him out. Edwin's family all went to celebrate with him. After the fight, Edwin took Jedrzej to the gym so he could teach him how to box, but then Konstanty Zaluski, who happens to be the president of the Polish Boxing Association, PDA, walked right in. Zaluski took Edwin into the office and told him that he has to purposely lose the next match he'll be fighting. Edwin was pissed after hearing this, knowing he had no choice, so he decided to rather quit boxing instead. After this incident, Edwin was a shadow of his former self. He hated it when he saw Jedrzej boxing, so he banned Jedrzej from practicing any form of boxing, and focus on his studies instead. Jedrzej became one of the best students in school, but he still read about boxing in secret. Edwin walked in on him reading one of the magazines about boxing, and beat the shit out of him. Edwin was very aggravated after the incident. He suddenly had a panic attack and fell very ill. Jedrzej felt responsible for his father's illness, so he graduated with the highest GPA to make him proud. Jedrzej rushed home after receiving his award, but he was disappointed on getting home. He discovered that Edwin has passed away. After Edwin's demise, Jedrzej didn't feel like studying anymore. Czesiek intercepted him right on time, before he killed a boy who was just making inquiries on his father's funeral. Czesiek advised Jedrzej to put his anger in good use. He told him to come train at his gym. Jedrzej resumed training at Czesiek's gym the next day, and Czesiek taught him everything he needed to know to be able to become a great boxer. Czesiek continued teaching Jedrzej boxing till he grew up, learned enough skills, and felt he was ready to fight in a real boxing ring. Jedrzej, in his first championship fight, was brutally knocked over in front of thousands, but he was relentless and didn't give up. The referee called the round and Czesiek went to his corner. Czesiek kept on slapping Jedrzej so he could get his head back in the game. When Czesiek noticed he was already fired up, he then left him and the next round commenced. The next round kicked off, and Jedrzej deflected all his opponent's jab in a bliss, and finally knocked him out, winning him a gold medal in Polish championship. Jedrzej wasn't still feeling fulfilled after winning the medal, although his uncle tried to cheer him up, but all to no avail. While all this was happening, Jedrzej sighted a beautiful lady at the other side of the bar, and decided to approach her. Jedrzej halted her and saw she was holding a chemistry book. Out of desperation he told her to ask him any question from the book, that he'll answer it, and if he does, then she'll have to give him a chance. She sluggishly asked him because she felt he couldn't answer it, but Jedrzej stunned her by answering the question correctly, and that was the beginning of their love story. 3 weeks later, they got married and did their honeymoon. They were so happy together and crazily in love, even though they had no money. When they got home, Jedrzej was feeling uneasily grumpy, and when Kasia asked him what was wrong, he told her that although he's a Polish champion, he still isn't living the life and felt he deserved more. Jedrzej finally suggested to Kasia that they leave Poland to England, so he could compete in the European Championships. He convinced her that it's the only way for him to truly chase his dreams. After much conviction she finally agreed, and Jedrzej was immensely happy. During Jedrzej's gym session with Czesiek, he told him about his plan to elope with Kasia to London. Czesiek wasn't attuned to the plan, and he left the gym angrily. Czesiek later came to Jedrzej's house, and after being accustomed to their plan, finally supported him. The Polish team finally arrived in London for the Olympics. Jedrzej immediately got to his room, and swiftly climbed out the window. He went to Kasia's room and told her that they're heavily guarded, and the only way to escape is through the window. Kasia told him that she can't climb out of the window, because she is pregnant. This news made Jedrzej immensely happy, but Kasia was now second-guessing their flight, as a baby is involved now, but Jedrzej was able to convince her by showing her the beauty of London. Czesiek is with Jedrzej inside a room allegedly preparing for the Olympics. He then took the guard outside to give Jedrzej time to escape. Jedrzej, knowing it was all part of the plan, broke out the window, and when the guard finally barged in, he was out of sight. Kasia, on the other hand, was about to escape, but she was made by the guards. When they were about to get to her, Czesiek bumped into them, and this action aided her escape. When they got out, they were clueless on where to go to. Then Jedrzej remembered Czesiek gave him an address to a house in case they were stranded. They both arrived at Charles's house and were received with warm hands. Charles treated them with hospitality, and to reciprocate the love they have been shown, Kasia offered to give him some money which was sewn into a boxing glove, but he refused to collect it. The next morning, Charles drove them to the Legends gym. Jedrzej, on entering the gym, was trying to convince the owner, who happens to be Neil McCavanagh, to take him as his fighter. But Neil refused the offer, telling him that he already has a world champion, Roy Barber, as his fighter. Jedrzej was confident that he could defeat Roy in a fight, so he challenged him to a 1v1 sparring match and Roy agreed. Jedrzej told Kasia to wait outside for him, while he geared up for the fight. Roy in the ring was messing around with Jedrzej, and as soon as Jedrzej landed his first jab, Roy took him more seriously and engaged. Roy severely punched him continuously, and finally broke his hand, after which Roy knocked him to the ground. Kasia was outside watching all this and she couldn't take it anymore. She burst into the ring, pushed Roy away from her husband, and eventually took him out of there. They were arguing as they got out, but was interrupted by a junkie named Jackie Boss. Jackie told them that he's looking for fighters whom will be fighting gimmick matches with world champions, and all he has to do is not win. Jackie continued and told them that they'll be paid a good amount of money just to lose, but Jedrzej wasn't having it and left. When they got home, they discovered that their room was mugged, and the money they hid in the gloves had been stolen by Charles. Jedrzej, out of frustration, punched Charles to the ground, and this action prompted the police to take him and Kasia into custody. The police didn't deport them as expected, rather they gave them a room at the immigration center. Jedrzej went home and told Kasia that he needs some money to pay up his debts in the gym, but she viewed it as a very selfish act. Kasia threw the money at him in frustration, and due to the immense stress she put on herself, her water broke, and she was rushed to the hospital. Kasia finally gave birth and they named their son, Thaddeus. Jedrzej felt a whole new wave of responsibility that requires money. He then remembered the guy that approached them some time ago about gimmick fights. Jedrzej approached Jackie, and informed him that he's ready. He then went home so he could pack up his things for the fight, but just as he was about leaving, Kasia presented him with a gift, and when he opened it, he was the new boxing robe that Kasia sewed particularly for him, with his name imbued on the back. Jedrzej was in the preparation room, getting ready for his fight, when all of a sudden, Cheziek, his uncle, walked right in. Jedrzej was having a run of emotions when he saw Cheziek. Jedrzej procked into the ring to commence the fight with his opponent, Rascal O'Brien. The fight commenced, but Rascal jabs were too weak, so Jedrzej kept on telling him to hit him harder so he can fake the knockout. Cheziek knew Jedrzej was holding back, so he told him to go all in. The fight resumed, and in the 12th round, Rascal was finally able to drop him with an uppercut. Jedrzej was supposed to stay down, as that was the plan, but after much thinking about his dad, Jedrzej stood back up, which angered Jackie. Jedrzej attacked him non-stop, and when he finally went down, he couldn't stand any longer. The referee then ended the match, crowning Jedrzej the winner. After the fight, Jackie was bitching at Jedrzej for losing the match, but then Nikki Nicodem walked in. Jedrzej thought he has gotten himself into some big trouble, but Nikki presented Jedrzej with a contract so he could become his new fighter since he knocked the last one out. Jedrzej jumped on the offer and signed the contract immediately, disregarding Kasia's advice to read it first. The next morning, Cheziek accompanied Jedrzej to Nikki's gym where he'll be training. Nikki, on sighting them, called Jedrzej into his office and told him that Cheziek can no longer coach him, and his new coach is Pierre. Jedrzej walked up to Cheziek to break the bad news to him. After hearing the news, he felt bad but hid his emotions so it doesn't affect his nephew's progress. Nikki afterwards kept on fixing gimmick matches for Jedrzej so he could rise to fame, and he was now known as the Polak. Nikki bought them a house, car, and changed their wardrobe so they could fit in their new lifestyle. Cheziek was depressed and turned to alcohol, while Jedrzej started becoming tired of the gimmick fights, and started yearning for real fights. After the fight, Eva Hayes, a journalist, was interviewing Jedrzej about the fight, and she asked him a question that left him dumbfounded. Suddenly all the journalists started running towards the other side, and when Jedrzej looked, he saw it was Roy Barber and lost his cool. Jedrzej transgressed his anger on Cheziek, which was gaining traction and eventually caused a scene. Jedrzej, after sending his uncle off, went to Roy's table, and after punching him, he challenged him to a fight to contest for his WBC title. Kasia and Jedrzej were supposed to go home, but Kasia confronted him about the incident that happened earlier, which pissed him off. Jedrzej took it as an opportunity to lay some things off his chest and cheat on her. Jedrzej left her there and headed over to Eva's house. When he got there, Eva was sexually dressed and they kicked it immediately. Jedrzej woke up the next morning on her couch feeling disappointed in himself. He went back to the gym, and as he walked him, Kasia was right there waiting for him. On seeing Kasia, he started feeling uneasy because he thought she already knew, but she just came to tell him not to miss Thaddeus' birthday. After their conversation, Nikki took Jedrzej to his office and informed him that he'll have to ditch his son's birthday for an interview with Eva Hayes. Jedrzej chose the interview over his son's birthday, and after the interview was over, Eva invited him over for an after-party. She told him that that's where he'll get all the necessary connections he needs as a boxer. When they arrived, Eva started caressing him and he had the time of his life. After Thaddeus' birthday, Cassia was crying badly because she had already figured out that Jedrzej was cheating on her. Jedrzej returned home the next day, but the house was totally empty. Cassia had left him. Jedrzej was angry, but instead of looking for Cassia, he invited Eva in and Jedrzej fell under her influence. They started doing drugs at any chance they get, and Jedrzej did not train for weeks. Jedrzej finally returned to training on the 4th week, but his head wasn't in the game and Nikki noticed. Nikki called him to his office, and questioned him on why he has become irregular at the gym. Jedrzej started feeling pompous and indispensable, so he told Nikki that he wanted out, and he should pay him off. Nikki, being a snake, told him all he has done for him. He further told him that Jedrzej would be the one owing him. Jedrzej was humbled and he was left with no option than to keep fighting for Nikki. Jedrzej, after leaving the gym, went to Cheziek's house so he could apologize to him, but it was already too late, as Cheziek committed suicide. Jedrzej was at Cheziek's burial regretting all his choices. Then Cassia showed up to pay her respects to Cheziek. Cassia was ready to make up with Jedrzej, but Eva came out to show territory and Cassia left. Cassia came back in the evening to Jedrzej's house and served him divorce papers. Jedrzej was so pissed and he started begging Cassia not to leave, but she left either ways. Jedrzej went into the championship match vexed, and he just let Roy hit him over and over again. Jedrzej got tired of the back and forth, so he knocked Roy out, which won him the championship title he has always yearned for, but at what cost? That was how the movie ended. Please like, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you.